Greetings once more. We're going to start today looking at the very first of our religions. And in reality, when we're looking at animism, we're looking at a group of religions. It's not just one religion that you can say this is this. This is going to be more of an overview of what is it that the tendencies of the animistic religions that have existed in the past and some that still exist today. So animism is our focus today. It's kind of funny, the word animism, I've remembered talking to people and they say, oh, it's about animals. Well, no, actually it is about the word anima, but animal doesn't mean what you think it means. Anima is breath or soul. So anima literally is a word that refers to something that has being, something that is sentient, something that has life in it. And so animism is a belief that ascribes spiritual life or soul to inanimate things or to animals or other things that we might not consider to be sentient, that we might not consider to have something eternal or spiritual about them. The idea that a soul or spirit exists in every object, every animal, every person has something spiritual or soulish about it. Animism includes the belief that the human soul continues in a spiritual state after death. Now, this view doesn't, again, this is not a form of religion. They don't have an idea of exactly how this all takes place. But they believe that when a person dies, they continue their existence, but they exist now as a spirit being. And typically they continue to abide and live in the spirit being in the same region area as the tribe or the family. All souls and spirits continue to live as a part of the immaterial universe that surrounds us. So there's this idea, and to the animist, they look at the whole world around them, and the whole world around them is full of spirits, full of souls, full of spiritual beings are everywhere. And so in the air, in the trees, in the flowers, in the grass, in the plants, in the animals, everywhere there are spirits. And so for the animist, the world and the universe are full of spiritual beings. Now, the evolution of religion theory places us the earliest of all human religions. It says that this existed before organized religions and their founders and their scriptures. It existed before ancient empires and their writing systems. And that's the teaching. They also, but we know that animism continues today without any written texts, but it continues to live through art and myth and music and dance. And so there are people that are animists today. And as a matter of fact, neo-animism is a lot of what goes on today in the name of neo-paganism, neo-animism is a lot of what we see in the New Age movement, in the Wicca movement, and the Earth movements, the Earth First movements and such. It's blended pieces of old animistic religions. Now, just a little note, I mentioned this in the first thing. I don't necessarily ascribe to the theory of religious evolution. I believe that there are also biblical theories that explain the existence of animism. I believe that in the beginning, humankind originally knew God. Adam and Eve knew God. Now, once they were cut off from his presence, it's pretty clear that rather quickly they began looking for other gods and other ways of controlling gods or spirits or life. I mean, even you just look in the book of Genesis, and very early on, they began to see worship of other deities, worship of other gods. And to the point of by the time of Noah, most people were worshiping some sort of doing these animistic beliefs. And so I don't necessarily, though I do not disagree that it was one of the earliest forms of religion, I see it that the fact is that people had been cut off from the presence of God, and they maintained a sense of something real beyond themselves, but they lost their touch with the real true God, and that knowledge had only been restored to man through progressive revelation. So that's my take on it. You can like it or dislike it. That's completely up to you, but that's just how I view it. But nonetheless, history shows us that animism was one of the earliest forms of human religion. The basic beliefs of animism, and once again, you could go to 50 different tribes in 50 different places and find 50 different sets of beliefs. So we're going to talk about general beliefs. The universe is a place animated by many, many spirits. Some are friendly, some are not. There are many gods, many spirits, and supernatural powers exist. And there perhaps might be a high God or universal force, unifying force that unifies them all. But they rarely believe in a personal God. If there is a great high God, he lives far, far away in the heavens, far, far away in the sky, and he's not connected to our everyday life. Animism usually leads to nature worship. There's the idea that the spirits inhabit the hills, the stones, the trees, the rivers, the air around, the sky above. So there are rituals and sacrifices that are done to trees, to plants, to certain holy hills, holy mountains, and such. Plants and trees are often considered sacred, and they are the home of specific spirits. And so there would be, once again, we call it paganism, but paganism and animism is just a version of animism. Even where I lived in Latvia, one of the ancient religions of Latvia was a version of Druidism. And the Druids believed in the spirits and trees and ancient oak trees that had lived for 200 or 300 or 400 years were considered to be sacred and considered to be the wellspring of wisdom. And so they worshipped these ancient oaks and believed that the spirits that inhabited these ancient oaks could grant them wisdom and knowledge. And so they would perform rituals or meditations or whatever else around these ancient oaks. The fields and crops might hide spirits of infertility, and these spirits of infertility had to be appeased or had to be driven away or whatever else. So, as you said, we are very scientific in our thinking in America. We're very scientific in our thinking. Many Americans no longer believe in even the spiritual forces that are clearly laid out in Scripture. There are many Christians who no longer even believe that demons exist, even though Jesus himself talked about demons and cast out demons. And so many American Christians, we have naturalized everything. We have scientificized, which isn't a word, but I just made it up. We have applied science to everything to the point that we don't see spirits anywhere. They are the absolute opposite. There are spirits everywhere, in everything that you do. There is a tradition for coming in the door, a condition for going out the door, a tradition that you must follow when you're about to give birth to a child, a tradition you wrap a string around that child's arm to protect from this spirit, and you don't give it the evil eye for that spirit. And man, it's just everywhere are spirits, and you're always, every part of your life, you're trying to either influence or control or appease those spirits. So once again, the primary task is to keep the spirits happy. Now, these might be the spirits of dead ancestors, or they might just be spiritual beings. It might be the spirit of a great elk, for all you know. But you have to keep the spirits happy through correct behavior and correct actions, along with rituals and sacrifices. Don't do anything to offend or make the spirits angry, because unhappy spirits will punish you or harm your family or your clan or your tribe. And so you literally, or you spend your life making sure you're not making the spirits angry. And there's always, and once again, they don't have a 16 fundamental truths list. There are stories, and in the stories are perhaps there's a story about a man who desired to have his neighbor's animals, and instead the spirits, his desire for his neighbor's animals made the spirits angry, and then his animals began to die. And so rather than thou shalt not covet, rather than being a specific teaching structure, there's a story, and in the story there's evidence, I shouldn't want my neighbor's animals because it'll make the spirits angry. So once again, you always do that. Now, along with these things you have to do, there's also always a spiritual leader, a shaman, a witch doctor who is able to communicate with the spirits. They are able to enter into trance states or into meditative states where they can communicate with the spirit world. And they can find out why the spirits are unhappy, and then they can provide a remedy, whether it's a blood sacrifice or whether it is a particular set of actions or a particular type of sacrifice that has to be made, or spending 2 nights sitting under such and such tree. They can find that remedy, and you're supposed to follow it to keep the spirits happy. Once again, they believe the soul can leave the body in trances and dreams and commune with the immaterial souls of the dead. And especially that is especially true of the shaman, the leader of a group like that. Some sample beliefs of animism. And this, once again, there are thousands of these, and I just literally chose these 2 as a kind of evidence of what we're talking about here. In Southwest Africa, there was a tribe that one of the traditions was that a dead man's goats were to be slaughtered and eaten after he died. And it was connected to the idea that then these the goats would then follow the dead man into the realm of the spirits, and he would need them there. And he would either need them for their milk or need them for their food, or basically it was this idea of providing for the needs of the dead. So he died and became a spiritual being, and then they killed his goats so that those goats could join him in the spiritual realm to provide for him. And there are many, many traditions about providing for these spiritual beings that have passed over, the spirits of dead ancestors. Once again, even in Latvia, our language tutor, though she had a faith in Christ, she still had a connection to their ancient religions, and they believe that there's certain times of year. There was one particular times of year that took place middle of November, and it was a time period when it was known that was the time when the spirits of your dead ancestors would come and visit you and look in on you. And during that time, you left out food on your table, and you put you put out a bowl of water with a stick over it, and that bowl of water with a stick on it would allow them to cross over into the world and look in on you. And so, there's all of this concept that still exists in many places in the world. And once again, Latvia is a long ways from Africa, but Latvia still had some of these animistic beliefs that floated around in it. West Africa especially, they used masks that represent supernatural beings and ancestors. When the wearer then would take on the characteristics of that spirit and could speak and act on their behalf. Perhaps there's a mask that represents a particular the spirit of the previous shaman, and then the previous shaman that would come and speak to the people through the wearing of that mask and such. So anyway, you can the thousands of stories. I had to choose a couple so we could just focus on the general ideas. Some of the strengths of animism as it relates to being able to be evangelized for the gospel. They vaguely believe in a supreme being. So at least kind of like Paul did when he was speaking in Athens, he can say to the people, you have this unknown God that you worship. Well, I'm going to tell you about that unknown God. And you could start there. You'd say, you have this sky God that you worship, and you think he's far away, but he's not. So I'm going to tell you about this sky God. They have some concept of sacrifice for atonement or payment. Now, not necessarily for sin, but at least they have this understanding of sacrifice being a part of the system. They have a great respect for the elderly. Once again, it's based on the fact that the elderly will soon become ancestral spirits and have influence over the good and bad luck of the village. So you treat your old people really, really well because you want them to die happy, so that when they die, they will be doing good things for your village. The animists tend to be very sensitive to spiritual things. They have no problem. You read the stories, and once again, some of the stories that we kind of gloss right over, but read the stories about Jesus casting out demons, or about the disciples or the apostles casting out demons. Man, they dig into those stories because they say, oh, this high God has power over the evil spirits. This is the God I want to worship. And he says right there, he has the power over. Man, there's even the writings of Paul. Principalities and powers were made subject to him. Yeah, we in our scientific minds read right over that. But man, for them, that's a big deal. That principalities and powers, these spiritual forces, are subject to this great high God. And they have a strong focus on the unity of the community. Some of the weaknesses of animism, they start out, their starting point is that God is far removed from the individual and their need. They have a continual fear of dead and harmful spirits hovering about them. And once again, presenting Jesus as the one who has power over these evil spirits is a great starting point. They often depend on fetishes and magic for protections. They're looking for human means or little tricks or whatever they can do, that certain emblems or implements that would protect them. They have little hope for eternity. Their idea is to die and continue to hang around the village. I've often wondered about that, but again, it's because my mind is very, I've got to have my boxes. I've got to have clear thinking. I'm thinking, so best case scenario, I die and my spirit hangs around the village. That's pretty boring, you know. Once again, that's my Western thinking. For them, they're going to go and join their ancestors. They're going to go and live with their ancestors in this immaterial world, and so that's kind of a challenge. And their teachings really have no present. Animism has no present help for the trials of life. You're kind of on your own. You're left guessing. Who do I have to appease? What do I have to do? What do I have to sacrifice a chicken and pour its blood over this, or do I have to worship this tree or that tree, or what do I have to do? So there's just no real help for them in the time and the trials of life. But anyway, this is just a real short overview. You could do a whole course on animism. So do not think that what I've taught you is everything there is to know about animism, but this is kind of an overview to let you understand. When we talk about animistic religions, this is some of the things that we're talking about. So look forward to hearing from you. If you have questions or thoughts, ideas, anything that you have questions about, feel free to send me an email.